Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
Hello. Welcome, everybody. We are still here in Cali at the Colombia Bird Fair. My name is George Armistead. I am here with my co-host, Molly Brown, with the Birder Show, Chris Bell, and also with acclaimed author, Jennifer Ackerman. Welcome to the show, Jennifer. Great to be here with you.
Thank you. It is a delight to be with you.
Yeah, really awesome. We've been looking forward to this for a while. We talked about this a little bit before we started recording. We named, our first podcast of the year, we named our most wanted birders of the year.
That's right.
And Molly named you as her most wanted.
I am so honored, Molly. Thank you.
It's so wonderful to be here.
Where did I come on the list?
Yeah. We'll get to that. No worries. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I won that race of meeting new birders.
Yeah, you did.
Happened pretty quickly.
I named 3 and I've gotten 0 so far. But
are you going to let us know who they are?
All in due course. Yeah, I said Karina Newsom, Corey Usick, and Andy Farnsworth. Those are my 3.
Good.
So yeah.
You're listening.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, you wouldn't be a life birder for me. So
that's true.
Yeah.
We've birded together a few times.
Quite a bit.
Now.
So yeah.
Well, you guys, this is great for me as well because you guys were 2 of the first guests that we had on the Birder Show when we first started out.
Yeah.
You were number 1 with Rich Page, and we had that sort of guides episode. And Jennifer, I think you were probably episode 2 or 3, I think, something like that. And we had a great chat. That was still one of our most commented and liked episodes.
Well, it was so much fun for me, really, and everybody has told me that it is by far the best interview they've seen me do, and it's really thanks to your craftiness in just shaping a wonderful bird show, and just the collegiality of the whole bird delight, and
it was a lot of fun. Well, I'm sure we'll have a great time today as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So is this your first time in Colombia?
Second time in Colombia. I was here in 2020, just before the pandemic, for the Hay Festival in Cartagena and Medellin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, but I had very little time to bird.
Yeah.
And so this is just such a welcome return.
Yeah.
I got a tantalizing taste of a little bit of bird exposure that first visit, and what is it, 2,000 species or something?
That's ridiculous. It's absurd.
Coming from 2000.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I understand you had a little bit of field time today. You've been running around a lot of this festival. They've got you very busy, and we're thankful for your time now. But I know you got a little bit of field time in today. Yeah?
I did. I got to go to Chicoral, and we had a fabulous day. We saw a pair of toucan barbettes and a pair of scaled fruit eaters, and they were right up close, right by the road, and we got terrific photographs of them.
Man.
And they were completely silent, and as if they were just sort of like, here we are, just putting on a show for us. And then, really probably 30 species of hummingbirds and tanagers, and it was just absolutely marvelous. And then on my way here, I had the great delight, total surprise. The bus stopped, and we got out in an apartment building, and we went to the back. And one of the bird fair people that work here had discovered a spectacled owl above her garage.
Oh my gosh.
And she'd heard it calling, and so she went out and looked around, and there it was, just sitting in the tree getting harassed by a Jacobin hummingbird, but pretty imperturbable, and just looking down at us the way that owls do.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
Yeah, it was great.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's and the genus for that bird is Pulsatrix, and for that pulsating call they have, that's such a great sound. One of the great bird sounds.
Truly.
Yeah. Well, that's very cool. Yeah. Have you gotten to eat some Colombian food while you're here a little bit?
Yeah, we had a traditional lunch at the La Minga Eco Lodge, rice and beans and avocado salsa, and just delicious, wonderful juice. And the food here has been uniformly wonderful. I am a huge fan of arepas.
Yes.
And Yeah, just about. I think I'm a huge fan of everything Colombia.
I know it's a lot to
I know
like.
how that feels.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been living that for 10 years. I was supposed to leave 9 years ago, and yet here I still am.
Yep. Yeah. I think we all have found Colombia's found a place in our hearts for sure, and for good
Absolutely.
reason. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Well, we're all looking forward to your talk tomorrow night. That's going to be a great time. I know our group that we brought from the States are all looking forward to it as well. In fact, we're having our farewell dinner tonight because everyone was like, well, we can't do the farewell dinner in the middle of Jennifer's talk. So, yeah.
I'm relieved.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very nice.
Yeah, so no, we're doing it tonight, and so that everybody can go to the talk tomorrow, and that's going to be awesome. And Molly and I were just talking about you have a new book on the horizon. Maybe you want to tease that a little bit and let folks know what's coming with that?
I would be delighted to. It's called What an Owl Knows, the New Science of the World's Most Enigmatic Birds. And it's just about that. It's about what we've discovered really in the past decade about the science of owls. And, they're such a difficult group of birds to study because they're crepuscular or nocturnal, and they're very secretive, but there's such a huge fascination with them, and has been, for tens of thousands of years, really, all the way back to the Chauvet Caves 30,000 years ago, and that was some of the first paintings of owls was a beautiful sketch. They think of a Eurasian eagle owl deep, deep, deep in the cave, and so I think owls are in our DNA in some way. We came to be a species alongside them, and so I think people are really fascinated, and they're fascinated by their mystery. But it's really been in the last 10 years that we've learned so much about these birds, partly because of new technology, tracking technology, and new ways of observing owls. And the book is really focused on the pretty exciting new discoveries. Mm-hmm. Recently.
Nice.
Yeah.
So did you start reading about these discoveries and decide that you wanted to turn that into a book, or did you start pursuing them because you were interested in writing about owls?
Both, I would say.
Yeah.
I make a habit of perusing scientific journals of all kinds, particularly ornithological journals, and so I am looking for things that, oh my gosh, there are a lot of articles about bird intelligence or, different interesting forms of bird behavior, and there's been really great research on owls recently. So some of it came out of just seeing a pattern emerge of really wonderful and enlightening new studies. And then also I like everybody else, I think I'm just really interested in owls. And I had the great good fortune of having an owl, screech owl, eastern screech owl, roost in an owl box right behind my house. So the kitchen window looked right out on this owl box, and this eastern screech owl roosted there for 2 years. And we would just, my kids were little, I had 2 little girls, and we would just watch the owl, either just roosting or, we never saw it leave. But sometimes in the morning we'd come down and there would be the wing of a mourning dove hanging out of the box. And then we'd see it sort of twitch, 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 and then it would be yanked into the box. Wow. And then the girls were just aghast, what is going on? Yeah, and when I took the box down, it was packed with, fur and feathers and things. But so that was one of my first really, just exposures to what incredibly skilled hunters they are, and so secretive. And so I have just enjoyed learning about everything from how they communicate, which is also a brand new field. I mean, they're using artificial intelligence to understand how owls communicate, and the kind of subtlety of their messages that, hoot is not a hoot is not a hoot. There's a lot going on in their communication. And, we've learned so much about flight and really all kinds of things, the psychology of owls. So the book really explores all of these new areas, and it was just great fun to work on. And I had the really good fortune to work with some terrific scientists on this book. I think, most ornithologists are very, very dedicated, but these owl people,
it's a whole different breed.
Over the top.
Yeah.
Definitely devoted.
Yeah.
So, great people.
It is interesting, as you were saying, that sort of the space that owls occupy in various human societies, and it's just I don't know if it's the binocular vision or or the mysteriousness of them being mostly nocturnal or crepuscular, as you're saying, but yeah, like they are fascinating and they're impossible to turn away from. And I used to always say, we would do pelagic trips, and sometimes you have people on pelagic trips who say, like, we're not interested in the whales, like we're here for seabirds, that's it. And you're like, really? There's a humpback whale or a sperm whale like breaching right here, and you're going to be like, I don't want to look at that. And I used to say that anybody that turns their nose up at a whale or an owl is simply a bad human being. There's no two ways about it. Yeah.
It's a good rule to live by.
I think so. I'm on board with that one.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think it's a fair measure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. That's it makes sense that it would be a topic you would choose given your fascinations on other subjects you've written on. We were talking about how we like to write as well. Not necessarily with much skill, but with passion. And was curious, like, do you bird to write at times? Do you find yourself, or what's your process like when it comes to writing?
What's your write-bird balance, like a work-life balance?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
It is. I feel so lucky because, my work is going out in the field, traipsing around behind scientists who are studying the species that I'm interested in. And that is the juice of my work, and it's what I love doing. So, yes, there's some bird life balance, bird work balance, I guess. I get out every day, sometimes twice a day. Mm-hmm. And, I usually have my binoculars with me, and so I do a lot of casual birding, but really the great moments for me that provides so much energy for my writing is being out in the field with the people who love these birds and have devoted their lives to them, and are so eager to share what they've learned. So it's just always an extraordinary experience. So it really begins with my kind of casting around, looking for, okay, what's happening in the field of owl research, and where do I want to put the focus, and who's doing the great work, and then getting in touch with those people and getting out in the field with them, mm-hmm. and just taking notes. And that's my favorite part of the process, mm-hmm. for sure. The writing, it's hard. It's just, it's laborious, and sometimes it feels like a slog, I love the editing process because that's when I get to play with language, and but just getting the material down on the page and making it into a story and a narrative, sometimes it's just really challenging. Yeah. But I do enjoy that process too. It's just sometimes it just feels a little overwhelming to squeeze this material into something that people can really chew on and enjoy, and not to go. Not to talk down to an audience, but sure. But also not to overwhelm them with technical information. So the material is really accessible. Yeah, to I think that's the trickiest part sometimes, is taking and I think we do this in guiding to some degree too. When you're out in the field, you're trying to like take some science that's some sciencey stuff that's real dense and thick, and condense it into something that's sort of digestible. Right, exactly. And when I describe the process of, I read a lot of scientific articles, and I'm always looking for the nuggets in them, yes, the juicy bits. The juicy bits, and they're there, it's just an amazing material, but usually it's presented in a very dry way, so you kind of have to cherry pick it. Mm-hmm. And and then presented in a narrative framework that engages people.
Yeah, that's where there's real artistry.
I hadn't thought about the amount of collaboration that you would put in with different researchers to actually produce the book. But then you get stories from it too. So it's not just the data, and it's the story behind it, and your story, learning it and experiencing it. And that's a really cool aspect of what you put into the books.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's it is. Yeah, it is a personal journey of discovery, but I like to try to bring the reader along with me. And usually I start out not knowing very much, and that's probably a good thing, and I like to ask very basic questions when I start out, and sometimes the best material comes that way, and it's just being out in the field and learning myself, and then trying to put it all together.
Weave it together.
Yeah.
A question I wanted to ask as well was, we talked about this a little bit when you were on the show, and I thought it was kind of relevant for where we are now, because one of the families of birds that a lot of birders here will be really familiar with are ant birds, right? It's down in the Pacific jungle region, San Cipriano, that's the big target, finding an ant swarm. And my favourite chapter in your books, all of your books, is the one about ant following birds in the bird way, right? And I've never looked at an ocellated ant bird the same way since, realising that, this seemingly sort of just instinctive behaviour of following ant swarms is, planning for the future. You talk about in these books that, they go around and they check the ant bivouacs with no purpose of eating just before roosting, and then arrive at the same spot the next morning.
They're scouting.
They're scouting.
They're planning for the future. It's incredible.
Yes, and they remember the locations of those ant colonies, and then they share information with other ant birds. I think that's extraordinary. That's one of the topics I'll talk about tomorrow night, is that information sharing. So, their ant birds are truly extraordinary. The ocellated ant bird is a hero of mine.
I remember the last one I saw in San Cipriano in this region, the Pacific coast, was, I don't know for sure, but I assume was doing basically that exact thing, because I saw it at about 6:15, it was getting dark, and this bird wasn't following any ants or anything, it just flew into a branch, looked around a bit, and then carried on its way. I was just thinking, planning for the future. There you go. Looking for the bivouac.
Amazing. Yeah.
Incredible.
There are so many birds to see in Colombia, and it's so tempting to try to rush through and see as many as you can. But then these are the kinds of experiences that if you go slow and you take your time and you can just see these different behaviors, and so much reason to keep coming back.
And that is, it's a really pull. It's a pull between, seeing lots of different species and slowing down and observing the behavior. And, I lean toward the behavior observation rather than sort of just moving on to the next species to tick it off my list. But it's definitely, you only have so much time out birding, and you have to decide where you're going to put your energy. So
Absolutely. And not that you have to come to Colombia to see that. Of course, you can see that anywhere in the world. But
you should come to Colombia.
I'll second that.
We've talked about that a lot on the podcast, though, how the intensity of birding, if you say you're birding intensely, people typically think you're rushing to see as many species, but there are lots of ways to really intensely observe birds and get a lot out of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, whether you're watching behavior or whatever you're studying in birds, you can do it intensely. Obviously, you can be active or passive about it, and I think there's benefits to both ways.
Yeah, and it always amazes me the amount of time that the researchers spend in the field at one site watching one bird. Hours and hours and hours. It's such difficult work, really. And some of it is very boring, but what they turn up is astounding. So, it takes patience. I aspire not to be a researcher, but I'd like to have that kind of patience in observing bird behavior, because you, as you point out, you don't have to come to Colombia or go to Australia to see interesting behavior. It's happening all around us.
You could do it on a park bench, potentially, in the inner city even.
Yep.
That was a really interesting phenomenon in the pandemic when everyone was confined to their backyards. And I found so many nest sites around my house that year. And I've just never observed birds in such a confined area like that before. And of course had lots of non-birder friends who were seeing like scarlet tanager fall out and that kind of thing. Just so many more people taking the time to notice birds. It's really cool. I mean, so much enjoyment from that, even if you're not taking it from an academic perspective, just the pleasure of
pure enjoyment.
Pure enjoyment
of getting to slow down and enjoy birds.
Yeah, it really was a silver lining, if you want to call it that, of the pandemic, because I think people did turn to nature. They needed it, and that has persisted. I think that the bird watchers that were born during the pandemic are now lifelong lovers of birds. They really have a new appreciation. So anything good came out of the pandemic. I think that was certainly one thing.
Yeah, I thought it was fascinating that during that time, people, they went to, if they could, depending on where they were, and Colombia is a little different than in the U.S., but they would go to parks, they communed with trees, and the animal shelters were emptied. Nobody could get a pet anymore.
Right.
It was like we turned to animals and trees. It was basically what we did. When in times of deep need, that's where we went, and I think that says a lot about us and how much we need animals and nature.
Indeed.
I could do without these. What do you call them? No-see-ums?
The no-see-ums.
I should point out for everyone listening that currently getting savage. A short-sleeve tropical shirt may have not been the smartest outfit choice for dusk in Cali.
I love it. The guy who's gone native here in Colombia doesn't know how to dress for the zoo in Cali.
Well, I mean, they know how to dress to look great.
Yeah. Well, no question about
just
that.
Not to get
but like the shirt, it's just not practical.
By hennas, as they call them here,
And I think we should point out Jennifer's shirt is pretty
Top
on
shirt.
target as well. Yeah. A variety of owls on display. Not just one, but a variety.
Yes, it's true. And it was a gift from a friend. I have to admit that my house is filling up with owl objects, and at some point it's going to be embarrassing.
Yeah.
So I'll
Your
have
book
to put
hasn't
it
even
into
released
it.
yet.
I know.
I was talking about this with someone the other day. Do you found that since you kind of publicly, as it were, came out as a birder, that one of the good things about it is that every Christmas and birthday present from everyone who knows you from then on will be bird themed?
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
One of the great side elements of being a birder.
You know those bird clocks that were like like the year those came out, I think I got like 4 of them. And I was like, really? And after like a couple days, when the clock hand gets to the kingfisher, it's like the flicker sound goes off, and it's all akimbo. It is. It's like sometimes it's like I feel like it's like people would give a hockey puck to Wayne Gretzky or something for Christmas. You're like, not that
the Wayne Gretzky of birding.
not that I'm the Wayne Gretzky of birding, but it's like you're so into something, and it's like maybe tickets to an ice hockey game would be better than another bird book. But
That's a good idea. Yeah, so just plane tickets instead
there you
of
go.
Bluebird coasters.
Right. Yeah. Well, I felt like I should confess too, and one question I wanted to ask you guys that I'll tease a little bit before I ask it was and I'll tell mine first, was the incarnation, if you have a reincarnation bird. And I don't remember if we've talked about this before on the podcast, but as you were talking about the spectacled owl, we raised this on a podcast once on one of our previous episodes where Alvaro mentioned that his bird name, he has a couple, but one of them is the fire-eyed Ducon, this crazy flycatcher from the southern cone of South America, because he doesn't wear sunglasses when he goes birding, and his eyes are always totally bloodshot. At least that was the reason he told us they were bloodshot. We were never really fully convinced. But I'm not casting aspersions about our co-host here, but he's not here to defend himself, so I'll cast away. But yeah, so that was his bird name, and he was saying, at some point you should talk about yours, George. And so, actually mine is the spectacled owl. So I really took that on, and it became sort of part of my thing. It's sort of a totem, for me. And so I have a lot of owl stuff around the house. We got a lot of owl stuff, and my first house that I bought, I called the Owl Ranch. That was the eBird hotspot that I named it. I called it the Owl Ranch. And then I learned not too long after that oh geez, I'm forgetting. Who's the guy that wrote Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas?
Hunter S. Thompson.
Hunter S. Thompson. That was what Hunter S. Thompson called his house, and I was like, oh no, that's like how have I converged on the same
The Wayne
home
Gretzky
name?
of birding and the Hunter S. Thompson of bird.
Oh yeah. So we moved into it once I got married and moved into a new house. I now call it the Chateau de Chouette, which is the chateau of the owl. For a while, we considered the Parliament building, like a Parliament of owls, but it seemed too far. Nobody understood what the heck that was about.
But Le Chateau Chouette, everyone gets that.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
So wonderful.
I don't know what my one would be. I mean, the one I get called in the office at work is bearded bellbird for obvious reasons.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. So,
Yeah.
It makes sense. Yeah,
So that's your totem, but do you have?
it's not mine. It's just like a nickname thing.
Gotcha. But do you have a reincarnation bird? Like if you could come back as one of our crazy feathered friends, have you ever thought about what that would be?
I think some sort of falcon. I think, and I think orange-breasted falcon, which is my favorite falcon, and one of my favorite birds.
Yeah.
I just think that that combination of that eyesight. Maybe it's a little bit because I am terribly blind in both eyes. I've worn contact lenses since I was like 7. So anything that has incredible sight, I'm slightly envious of. I think so. Maybe it's something to do with that subconsciously. I'm like anything that has kind of that incredible vision appeals to me.
Well,
orange-breasted falcon.
That's a fantastic one. I've only seen them once. It was at the Cerros de Mavacouvre in Colombia here, which is a marvelous place if you guys ever get to go. But mine is also a falcon, Chris.
Okay.
And it's the Merlin.
Oh,
Yeah,
good bird.
because
too.
they can kind of go anywhere. Like nobody can really mess with them too much, and they're kind of like they're a little bit of jerks a little bit. They're kind of like, but nobody
And
can
you
really
aspire
do
to
anything.
this?
I like the idea of the freedom. I wouldn't actually want to be the
To
jerk.
be a jerk.
Yeah, but they sometimes they look like they just dart around for fun, and they're just like they have these diagonal stoops they do, and they just whenever they appear on the scene, it's so dramatic and sudden, and they look super alert and kind of a little pissed off at the same time and agitated. I like that about them. Maybe it's the city guy in me. It's the Philly. It's got a little Philly in it. The Merlin. Yeah.
There we go. So we're both falcons.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
I think my daughters nailed it for me. So I was telling them about Kia, and they I was telling them about what incredibly playful birds they are, and how they love to explore, and when I was my first Kia, I met in an aviary in Austria, and I was told to take off all my jewelry and my earrings, my watch, because the birds were going to explore everything. And sure enough, they came running over, and they were poking at everything, and they pulled off my shoelaces and unraveled them. And
Wow.
anyway, I'm telling my daughters about this, and they're sort of shaking their heads, and they're saying, "Yeah, Mom, that must have felt like familiar." And because in my family we have a tradition of sort of determining our own spirit age. So what is what is the age of your spirit? And I told them, and this is true, mine is 9 years old. And so they're listening to the description of the Kia, and they're saying, "Well, Mom, that really sounds a lot like your inner child." And so I really identify with them. They're largely because they're so social, they're playful, and they collaborate. They work together well. So I think my strongest identification would be with a Kia.
Kia.
Yeah.
Nice. That's a fantastic one. Yeah.
What about yours?
Well, I was opting more for the playful route as well. Also a highly intelligent bird that could be a little ornery, I would say. Have
That
the
fits,
ability
Molly. That
to
fits. Yeah.
have the ability to. They're social, but they also spend time alone, and that's a common raven. I always
Also,
love
good
common
choice.
raven,
Yeah.
which is my tattoo here on my wrist.
One of my
Nice.
favorite birds.
Really? Yeah.
Me too.
Love
Me
ravens.
too.
I love them. They've expanded a lot across Appalachia and a lot of the U.S. So I see them every day now, and it's very nice. It
Yeah.
never gets old.
That's a great choice.
And one of the smartest for sure. Right?
Yeah,
They do a lot of
definitely.
play and
Yeah.
yeah.
Great problem solvers. Yeah.
on Christmas Day this year, and it was 0 degrees in eastern U.S. It was really cold, and we were venturing out to go over to my boyfriend's parents for dinner, and there's one bird out, and it's a raven, like doing somersaults way up high, just having the time of its life, not at all caring that it's absolutely miserable out.
Yeah, I love some of the video imagery they've caught of ravens playing catch with snowballs. I mean, little snowballs. They just throwing them around. There's no apparent purpose to this behavior. It is just playful. Yeah, that's really great.
You do have to admire them. My father and I always liked looking at, when Audubon used to publish their Christmas bird count report, we would always look at the Prudhoe Bay, Alaska Christmas bird count to see if that year they saw the raven, because it was either they would see like a raven, 2 ravens, or 0 birds. That was like, that's it.
There's
it's
nothing
like,
else up there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, it shows you how resourceful and smart that bird must be to overwinter someplace like that.
Yeah, God, I can't imagine.
Pretty intense. Yeah, well, guys, I think we're probably running up on our time here. I know Jennifer's got to scoot because she's got to do mic checks, sound checks, and all that stuff. But thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
It was a joy. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely.
That was great.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back again soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.